appointments, proclamations, and recognitions. First up is Craig Eisenbei's retirement. We have a proclamation for Craig, and I'm going to read that to everyone. Whereas the men and women who devote their time and energy as professional law enforcement officers have assumed responsibilities essential for the safety of their fellow citizens, and whereas after serving nearly 29 years with the City of Brentwood, Officer Craig Eisenbeis has announced his retirement, and whereas his departure marks an end to 38 years in law enforcement that began in December of 1981 as a cadet with the Jennings Police Department. After successfully completing the cadet program, Officer Eisenbeis was hired by the Jennings Police Department in September of 1984. And whereas on December 20th, 1984, Officer Eisenbeis graduated from the Greater St. Louis Police Academy and began his career as a police officer with the Jennings Police Department. After serving the citizens of Jennings for 7 years, he joined the City of Berkeley Police Department in 1988. And whereas on February 22nd, 1991, Officer Eisenbeis began his career with the City of Brentwood Police Department. During his career, Officer Eisenbeis held the positions of patrol officer, canine officer, dare officer, and detective. He was a staunch supporter of the Missouri Special Olympics and the Backstoppers. Officer Eisenbeis often traveled to Springfield, Missouri on his own time to hand out medals to the Special Olympians. And whereas he and his family planned and organized the first ever Brentwood Police and Fire Barbecue, which raised thousands of dollars for the Backstoppers. And whereas on behalf of the entire Brentwood community, the City of Brentwood Police Department would like to congratulate Officer Craig Eisenbeis on an outstanding career and wish him and his family all the best as he begins the next chapter of his life. Now therefore, I, David Dimmitt, Mayor of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, do hereby congratulate and recognize Officer Craig Eisenbeis for his exceptional service, distinguished career, and commitment to public safety and protection and service to the residents, families, and businesses of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, as a member of the Brentwood Police Department, presented the 7th day of October, 2019.
We'd also like to, for the second time, congratulate you on nearly over 3 decades of law enforcement. His wife, Judy, where's Judy? Congratulations to you as well. This is certainly a team effort when you go through decades doing this job. Major McIntyre has a retirement badge and identification card for you.
Just real quick, just a brief story. I've said it a bunch of times. Craig started in February of 1991. I started in September. We worked on the same squad for about 5 years. Just a real quick story on how I was able to get a police chief's letter of commendation on behalf of Craig here in 1993. There was a carjack or a robbery that occurred at the Walgreens. We didn't call them carjackings back then, but he tried to carjack somebody. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but at some point he ended up down the train wreck and then ran around, and ultimately Craig located him behind what used to be the Ultimate Bride. It's kind of where Drury Inn is right now, and he came upon him pretty quick, and I thought that Craig had actually run over him because he was underneath his car. His feet were underneath Craig's patrol car. And then I came up behind him and nearly ran over Craig and the suspects. But just a brief little story. Somehow I ended up with a commendation when he had him in handcuffs, and all I did was nearly wrecked the police car and killed him.
Next on the agenda is the fire department swearing in a new employee. Chief Curtin.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Board of Aldermen, for the opportunity. I'd like to introduce you all to our newest hire in the department. His name is Nick Mayer, and his official first day with Brentwood was September the 26th. Nick was born and raised in St. Clair, Missouri. He graduated from St. Francis Borgia High School in 2006. After high school, he joined the St. Clair Fire Department as a volunteer, as well as attending East Central College, where he obtained an EMT license in 2008. Nick worked as an EMT in Salem, Missouri for 2 years before enrolling in the paramedic program at East Central College, where he obtained a paramedic license and an associate's degree in paramedicine in 2015. With his new training, he worked as a paramedic shortly before getting a job at the St. Louis Fire Department in 2016. After attending the St. Louis City Fire Academy, he was stationed in North City at Engine House 10, where he gained a wealth of knowledge and fire experience. He was with the city for about 3 years before joining the Brentwood family. He has over 10 years of fire and EMS experience. And his parents, Mark and Lori, are here tonight and are going to celebrate his hiring by pinning on his badge. They're both retired, live on a farm in St. Clair. Mark, his father, worked for Spire Energy for 35 years, and Lori, his mom, worked and owned a local florist for 25 years. Nick has one brother, Jeremy. He's also here tonight with his wife, Angela, and they live in Fenton. Nick currently resides in St. Louis, Missouri. He enjoys spending time with family and friends. He enjoys the outdoors, hunting, fishing, and are a few of his passions. He also spends as much time as possible on the family river cabin along the Merrimack River. In addition, he spends time volunteering with various organizations, giving back to the community when possible. He's looking forward to this new opportunity and a long career with the Brentwood Fire Department. I'd like to welcome Nick Mayer to the city of Brentwood and have him come up to be sworn in.
I, Nick Mayer,
I, Nick Mayer,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri
and the Constitution of the State of Missouri
and the ordinances of the City of Brentwood,
and the ordinance of the City of Brentwood,
and that I will faithfully demean myself
that I will faithfully demean myself
in the office of firefighter
in the office of firefighter
for which I was appointed
for which I was appointed
on the 26th day of September 2019.
on the 26th day of September 2019.
Congratulations.
Next on the agenda, we have a public hearing, case number 19-18, a public hearing to consider a conditional use permit and site plan review to allow an enclosed or open recreational use to operate a gym, health club for property zone Tim C. Manchester Corridor Commercial District and located at 8500 Manchester Road. The applicant is Stephen Wallace. And with that, I will gavel open the public hearing for case number 19-18. Anybody in the public cares to address the board and speak to this matter, now is the time to do so. I will close case number 19-18. Next on the agenda, citizen comments. Anybody in the public care to address the board on any matter, now is the time to do so. You will be allowed up to 3 minutes. Seeing none, we will move on to mayor and alderman reports. Mayor David Dillett. Do I have anything to pull up on this? No, do I? Okay, thank you. The mayor has no reports. Alderman Kramer.
No report this time, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Leahy.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Ward 3 meeting for the month of October will be Tuesday night, the 29th of October at 7 o'clock in the Rec Center. And Ward 3 will graciously acknowledge that we had the best float in the Brentwood Day Parade. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. You're welcome. Alderwoman O'Neill. Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Lockmuller.
The Public Works Committee will meet here this Thursday, the 10th at 6 o'clock. Brentwood Century Foundation news, we had the 5K race to the courthouse. In there was our mayor now and 2 other mayors, all successfully finished without any medical assistance. Save the date for November 9th. That's going to be the party of the century. It's a gala we're going to have. The tickets are $35. Go to Brentwood100.org to order tickets. There'll be a cash bar, dinner, music. It'll be a big festivity. So go to Brentwood100.org to sign up.
Thank you. Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yes, the library is hosting Opposite October this Friday. It's one of their adult programs, which includes dinner and discussion of things we have read. They are doing a lot of new programs. People join. We have
Thank you. Alderman Plufka. Alderwoman Sims.
Ward 2 will be having a meeting on Thursday, October 17th, in the Brentwood Rec Center, Room A.
Thank you. Alderwoman Tice.
Ward 1 will be having a meeting tomorrow night at the Rec Center at 6:30 p.m. And one of the, we'll have Dr. Lane from the school district there to talk about the schools in general and the construction, because that's been somewhat of an issue in Ward 1.
Thank you. Alderman Leggy.
No report.
Thank you. Next one.
I forgot to say the time for our Ward 2 meeting in my paper airplane that I threw the whole way didn't work. So the meeting time is 7:30 on the 17th for Ward 2.
7:30. All right. City Administrator's report. Brentwood Bound update.
Thank you, Mayor Dillett. The Brentwood Bound update for October 7, 2019. We have 4 different categories. Construction cost. Total spent to date is 0. Soft cost. Total spent to date is $2,827,867.48. For property acquisition, total spent to date is $8,374,939.09. And for the contingency, 0 spent to date, and that total budget there is $10,322,260.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm not sure where else on the agenda this should go, so this is probably I want to protest the speed at which we are putting out a survey and expecting residents to vote on something for $8 million without a very good guideline. I'm not pointing the finger at any one person, but it seems to me, since I've been on the board, that we tend to hire a group to carry out something, and we don't always give them good guidelines. And then when they report back, we accept whatever they say and say, great, go on, and don't debate it much. And looking at what this group has come back for this survey, people are not being told exactly what is in this before they're asked to vote. I'm uncomfortable with that. detailed a couple lakes and trails as well as the flood control. And then we've added all sorts of things which are not in the same kind of recreation. Some of the things are much more active, and I could see a soccer field in a few years bringing in lots of people. Suddenly we have night lights, and it becomes an entirely different kind of recreation. That's going on at Brentwood Park, but delineated at Northwest. Something someone was surprised to learn was the size of the comfort station in the survey. The picture shows a bathroom when people want bathrooms. We may be the only ones who've seen the dimensions of that and just how large that is. We don't need to cook for 100 people there. We need a comfort station. Residents aren't being told that. They're just looking at it as a rest stop. So some of these, I think, need more talk before we ask people to do a survey. All of a sudden, we just got to know a park plan for 2015. It's the first time I've ever seen it. And if that's what the planners were following, they didn't take into consideration some of these subsequent meetings. To have a water activity now, but there's one at Lewis Park, right off our border, seems like a huge waste of millions of dollars. And the liability in a climbing tower, we haven't discussed at all. There are just so many questions about this that haven't been answered. One of the proposals that came up in some meeting we had with residents was a farmer's market. That was high on a lot of people's lists. That hasn't been mentioned on any of the promotions we had. And rather than spend money and allocate it now just to get it allocated, to me sounds, what's the, foolish. So I feel like we're being rushed. I would like to call a halt to this whole survey, do a little bit more work, rather than just rubber stamping whatever the planning group came up with, taking something from some catalog, throwing a picture of people in color to make it look nice. We can call a halt to this, and I would like to just slow this $8 million down. That's a lot of money. We don't have to spend it right now. We could wait, and I just wait to protest.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I'll second Alderman O'Neill's motion.
I'm sure it's a motion, but okay. Well, I'm not sure that's really the time right now to take that up. Paula, do you care to address this, or did you feel like you did that with your email? Or?
Well, I did, and I'm happy to read it again. So the consultant that has helped the city since 2015 with this project is planning design study. And there were a lot of public engagement back in 2015. Of course, when we do the onboarding for the Board of Aldermen, we provide you with a massive amount of information, and that was part of it. But it's been several years since you came on board, so I understand that, all the different things that you've seen, perhaps, we lose track of that. However, the master plan process also documents existing facilities nearby. So everything that we have at Tillis Park was documented in the park system master plan. So this survey that we're doing allows our residents to identify out of everything that's listed as a functionality within Northwest Park, what they would like to see, what they would not like to see. And we're going to bring back that survey results to the Board of Aldermen. The design, the schematic, getting into the detail of what's included. We're not there yet. So I don't think anybody has seen that. But bathrooms, like there are farmers markets, that is a programming function. So you're not going to see that in a capital infrastructure design for a farmers market. Because what we talked about when we met with the Alderman O'Neill was that we can program that within the event lawn. So in terms of, are we going to build a structure for that? You're not going to see that in the document that we have. So clearly, I think you've have an opinion on what you would like to see, I would encourage you to fill out the survey. We will bring all of that back to the board. The board can have a discussion and decide whether any of what they've heard from the residents, you want to support it or not. But to stop the survey that's actually completed, I think as of last Friday was the deadline for that. I would recommend this.
Okay. Your Honor. Sure. When we had our September meeting, I also raised issue that the rush on this survey. This board debated what and how much money we should allocate in the economic sales tax to fund the program that we're working on Brentwood bound to pick up the second half. We agreed to conservatively stay within the structure of the Brentwood bound arrangement and purposely discussed that these extra $11 million, $8 million funding of park facilities would be placed on hold for a while in order for us to get the facility up and running to work with. That's why last month I was surprised all of a sudden now we're throwing a survey out there to ask residents, would you like these type of things? With $8 million that at the time I questioned, where is it coming from? I thought we were using the money to pay the bills. Well, we were going to get some more grants and some side support, but we're still not addressing the full $80 million that you're talking about for getting this to full facility up and running. I think we're jumping ahead, and that's not a good thing for us to do. I'd like it to slow down also and stay focused on getting the flood and the area established, as this board agreed to do with the funding. So I think the survey is this time, and I think what we've got out there on that survey, I agree with Mrs. O'Neill. It's very misleading. It just says, hey, these all look pretty, put them in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, type of thing. And I think that's a bad way to do it.
Anyone else have anything on Brentwood bound update?
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Sir, do we have a motion on the floor, or do we not have a
I
motion?
didn't take it as a motion.
Okay, just making sure.
Thank you. Seeing none, all right, next on the agenda is the 2018 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. We have a couple representatives from Daniel Jones to address this.
Good evening. My name is Alfred Dropper. I'm with Daniel Jones and Associates. My associate next to me is Jamie Barr. Jamie was very instrumental in getting this report prepared. I'm here to present that tonight with Jamie. The report itself and the documents below, our responsibility is to issue an opinion. We have 4 options on those opinions. We can issue an unmodified opinion, qualified opinion, an adverse opinion, and disclaimer opinion. I'm happy to say tonight that the city has received an unmodified opinion. That means that the clean bill of health, the financial statements are fairly presented to all circumstances. I know that you just received this copy this afternoon, so I'm sure that you did plow through the 80-some pages statistical example. But if you do have any questions, feel free to ask them. I'll have Jamie answer.
Or if you get through this evening or this week, feel free to call the office.
Yeah, I left my car there too.
Paula, does this require any action on the part of the board?
In
Will we adopt this, or?
the past week, the board has just accepted
Okay.
the report.
Any questions?
That way we can move right.
Well, I think as Al said, we have 18 bill of health. There are a couple of items that were noted, but there were some, I don't want to just discuss those briefly as what I'll call exceptions, if you will, or
We can.
We had 2 exceptions this year. The first was just recommending that there's more training implemented as far as preparing GAAP financial statements. And then the second finding that we had was one of the banks that the city uses, the balances were underpledged, and that's because the bank uses an average balance throughout the year, and towards the end of the year, your balances were higher, so the bank we didn't have enough pledged. But that is in the process of being corrected as we speak. So we look to see that will be resolved next year.
Great, thank you.
Is this something that Ways and Means can take up with regard to the exceptions?
Well, I think certainly the first exception that was made, and I have already spoken with Alderman Sims about taking that up in the Ways and Means Committee to see what changes can be made possibly to, so that 2020 gets done sooner rather than October 7th of 2020. But yes, I think so. Anyone else? Great. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is consent agenda. Item 9, we have 9 items. First is standing committees reports. Letter B, the warrant lists for both the operating funds and the 2019 expenditures from the 2018 series certificates of participation. The minutes of the August 7th and August 19th meetings respectively. Resolution number 1178, which is a resolution of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, adopting the St. Louis Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan. F is resolution number 1179, which is a resolution approving an engagement agreement with Gilmore Bell, PC, for the services relating to tax compliance with the City of Brentwood Certificates of Participation, Series 2014. Item G is resolution number 1180, Hanley Park Courts Improvement Project. Item H, resolution number 1181, contract amendment between the City of Brentwood and the First American Title Insurance Company. And finally, item I, special use permit application for PTO Mark Twain Elementary School. Can we get a motion
To approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Leahy and seconded by Alderman Tice to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, can we get a roll call, please, Shelley?
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderwoman Parker Tice?
Yes.
Alderman Flopek?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
And Alderman Ruggie?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Shelley. Next on the agenda, we have no old business. We'll jump down to 11, new business. First is A, bill number 6247. Mr. City, first and second reading. Mr. City Attorney, can we get first reading by title only, please?
Bill number 6247, first reading, an ordinance granting site plan approval for an electrical substation and related improvements at 3000 South Brentwood Boulevard.
Thank you. Paula, do we have a synopsis on this? I think that you wanted the synopsis read.
Yes, sir. We're going to have first and second.
Yeah.
An application was received from Amherst, Missouri to subdivide a 21.9 acre parcel of land located at 3000 South Brentwood Boulevard into 2 lots. Lot 1 is 0.69 acres and Lot 2 is 21.21 acres in the area. Lot 1 will be sold to Amherst, Missouri, who desires to construct a power substation on this new lot. Lot 2 will be retained by the current owner by State Development Agency. This parcel was occupied by a bi-state metro garage at the intersection of South Brentwood Boulevard and Marshall Avenue. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the preliminary and final subdivision plat for Deer Creek subdivision by a vote of 6 ayes and 0 nays. The petitioner desires to purchase the parcel from bi-state development agency this fall and requests consideration for the first and second reading of this ordinance at this meeting.
Thank you. Do we have anybody to present on this? Lisa?
So along with the synopsis, I could probably add a couple of things. This property is currently zoned light industrial. It's also part of the, has a floodway overlay district on it as well. So this is kind of an unusual case. Normally you could not take a subdivided property and only create a 5,000 square foot lot in a light industrial district. It wouldn't meet the light industrial district requirements. There's an exception that's been in the Brentwood Code for a long time for situations just as this. is that the proposal was for some type of utility substation. In this case, it's an electrical substation that's being requested by Cameron. So it does meet the criteria in terms of the light industrial code. As I mentioned, it is in the regulatory floodway. The engineer for the project did have to go ahead and submit a no-rise certificate in order to be able to build that substation. And so that's checked out, staff has approved that. But there's actually two cases that are related here. The subdivision of the parcel, but this first one, this first bill, is for the actual site plan for the electrical substation. And I would like to comment that we worked extensively with Cameron to probably make this the most premier electrical substation in the St. Louis region. So again, they've used only the amount of land that they really need to build the substation. They've been very conservative in that respect. And in terms of the compound itself, for safety purposes, it will be paved with concrete and then also will have a security fence around it. But as well, since this fits into the area that we're planning on additional park and trail amenities in that location, we didn't want to have the electrical substation just appear out of nowhere like a sore thumb. So we've worked extensively with their engineer, with Cameron. So this will also have, in addition to that, like a 12-foot high copper fence, retaining wall, native landscaping. So I think the site plan, in terms of how it's been proposed, has addressed all of the city's concerns, are actually things we just brought up for discussion. So.
And Lisa, on this, the P&Z committee approved it unanimously, recommended
They did. That's
unanimously
correct.
bring it to the board.
Yes.
Okay, any questions? Alderman Legge, if you guys have this first.
I know you said there was a no-rise certificate, but this isn't a floodplain. And so this is a flooding area, especially up in Brentwood down.
So, I mean, there are activities that can take place in the floodplain and the floodway. You just have to follow all of the requirements and the regulations, both of FEMA as well as what our own floodplain ordinance says. So.
Are they expecting this to flood when that happens and that's okay? I mean, I guess I'm confused. It's an electrical.
So the no rise is a certificate that says that based on the improvement as it's constructed, is not going to create flooding for any adjacent properties or further, downstream. So this should stay dry. I mean, it should. I hate to always say there's a 100% guarantee of everything, but Spence Kelly, who is the engineer for Cameron, is here as well if you have any questions.
Thanks.
Alderman Love.
So I had the same question. I just thought, I had the impression, first of all, I wanted to say that I thought the screen wall was a really nice choice, actually. But insofar as the elevation, I thought that it would have to be elevated somehow.
So it is, and could I maybe call on, could
Sure.
you recognize
Sure.
Mr. Kelly?
Is the change in elevation reflected in the plan? I just looked back here.
Could you just state who you are?
Spence Kelly with Jacobs Engineering representing Warren. So,
Yeah, so my question was just whether or not the elevation of the substation itself has been altered, raised or whatever, or is it?
it's raised to match the elevation the bi-state facility is at, so it's not.
Oh, very good.
It's 12 feet higher than the existing ground is now to match their driveway.
Okay, thank you.
And then,
I just couldn't tell that from looking at the plan. Right?
but it does flood. Ameren is well aware of where they are, and they're going to bring those tubes out from the water just to raise the height which the water actually.
Very good. Thank you.
So now, Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, Alderman Kramer. I'm sorry. Lady, Alderman Lady, sorry.
Couple of questions. You've got a capture pit that you're going to pump water out to get it back into the stream area. But if this floods, what keeps that area from flooding it, from backflowing into the pump? Do you have backflow valves on the piping so that it doesn't absorb water to go under?
They've got a system. I mean, just the regular flood elevation is not actually getting overtopped.
Yeah.
They're asking, so through the storm sewer system. Is that what
Where your pipe is,
Yes.
you have a capture thing in your 0.6 acre that you're capturing water and you want to pump it through that well.
There's no pump.
You're just going to run a pipe through that. Now, what keeps the water from the creek coming back through that pipe?
They have a oil grease separator on their property, actually within the facility, that prevents water from going back
So you've got a backflow valve to prevent it from flooding. And as you pointed out, you're going to raise this area 12 feet high. Now, this is the area between Marshall Road and the creek itself.
It's north of the creek.
Yeah. So you're going to raise this up 12 feet, which matches the elevation of the bi-state garage at present. And then you're screening fence and all this, so I'm going to build an island basically out in this area that
And that's what, yeah, it's going to be screened with the copper decorative
fence around it. So, but I'm going to have this 12-foot high island.
Correct.
So
yeah, the retaining wall we picked out has got decorative wall blocks and everything, so it shouldn't stick out as just some.
For the last 40 years, this area has been the bi-state garage area. Why all of a sudden did this become a prime choice for you all to put a power station? What generated the demand for establishing this power station?
Well, I can. Okay, I think the goal is to have electric buses come out of this facility, so they need a very efficient system here. And there's also some future uses.
Mr. Langa for Bi-State is here, and he can speak to this.
Okay.
John Lang with Bi-State Development. There is a program we're going to have basically a rollout of electric buses. And so that we're working with Ameren, this is an opportunity for us to move forward on that. Part of that is through an Ameren program to enhance our bus fleet. That then led to the discussion of needing additional power to make that work. That also led to an additional discussion of having that substation in this part of South Brentwood over and above what we need in our garage. And so that those two factors.
Now, when you all built your original station for the bi-state, for the metro area, for your garage, you had to do an equal conveyance from the old U.S. Steel pipelines that were all there. That was the line that flooded to build up your area to put your garage in. By taking the 0.6 acres that you're talking about and building that up, doesn't that contradict what you had to do to build your first arrangement? And now I don't have the equal conveyance that we imposed upon them when they built the bi-state garage originally?
You understand the question?
I understand the question, but I can't answer the question. I'm not an engineer, and I wasn't here during that construction. The engineers that worked on that is for Jacobs Engineering, so I'd like to hand it back to answer that question.
The original construction, again, I can't speak to whatever happened on my state, whatever that facility was built, but the analysis we have to go through proves that whatever the existing flood elevation is now, whatever we put in there will not adversely impact, will not make it any worse than it is today.
I understand what you're saying, because you're saying you're not impeding the flow of the stream and the water and any flooding. But I'm saying the area that bi-state purchased, that whole lot area from the railroad all the way to Marshall Avenue was a low sunken area. U.S. Steel owned it. It flooded out to work with. Bi-state bought the property. In order for them to build their garage, they had to do an equal conveyance for everything that they were building up to be able to put the garage facility and parking lot in place and lower even more so that they could effectively handle the flooding. The degree was, their intent was to get the flooding so it would never adversely affect Marshall Avenue. We have demonstrated over time that doesn't happen. Marshall Avenue still floods. You're going to take 0.6 of an acre, raise it up 12 feet in this area, and you're not going to interfere with the flow of water, but you are going to increase it and cause greater flooding in that area. And I think we violate the original contract with Metro for allowing them to put their site in place. Lisa, I'll ask you to chime in. Has anybody looked at the old bi-state arrangement as to how we got their permission to build their facility originally, as to how this may or may not affect that?
No.
We should do so. Your Honor, I'll make a motion to put this action on hold till the city has a chance to effectively do its due diligence. I think we're violating our own original arrangement for bi-state.
Well, I'm going to ask the city attorney, does that that. Do you need additional time to look into, I don't know what contract Alderman Leahy's referencing, or who the parties are to it, or?
I don't either, and I'm sorry, I don't know what the term equal conveyance is. I'm not sure what.
In order for them,
Go ahead. What I understand to be the case is that under the current flood maps applicable to the site, and under the current standards for allowing people to raise property out of the floodplain, this program meets the regulations established by the feds and adopted by the city. And whether or not these were the standards at the time when Bi-State built its facility, I do not know. I have no knowledge of what you're talking about, so I can't really comment.
Well, has FEMA signed off on this?
FEMA doesn't have to, the city does.
The city does?
Yes.
In consultation with, I mean, to Alderman Leahy's point, the concern is, I understand that the concern is you're adding 6/10 or 7/10 of an acre that above, outside the
if the
floodplain.
city, if the city will look at their 1977 and 1978 records, when Bi-State picked up the property for U.S. Steel and came to us for the building of the Bi-State garage, you will find in there all of the records as to allowing them to bring dirt in to build up the area to allow the garage to go in, and how much equal conveyance they needed to allow the open prairie area flood to work with. Now you're taking 0.6 of that additional property and bringing it up. I would think that you will find that between the two, you are now in violation of the original agreement.
Okay, I now understand what you're talking about. Again, I don't know who the parties are to this agreement,
Yeah.
but as far as the applicant is concerned, do you have any, we had this on a first and second read tonight.
We are not the applicant.
I'm sorry, Amber, thank you for correcting me, okay, but we don't have to put from Amber. Okay.
What's your question?
Well, whether they would have any objection, Alderman Leahy's asking informally to push this thing down the road to allow the city to do some looking into this, due diligence, as he calls it. I'm not sure what we could do other than pulling this contract from 1977, 78, or whatever documents there are. Alderman Kramer.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add a little bit of color. I do remember this conversation specifically about the topic of equal conveyance. And what we were instructed as a board back then by representatives from FEMA was that you were not legally allowed to bring in, under their guidelines, new dirt to raise the floodplain. In other words, you could equally convey from one part of the lot to the other part of the lot, but you could not bring in new dirt. And when you did convey from one side to the other, or one center to the other center of the same lot, you could not impact the creek or the flow of the creek. And so I think the question Alderman Leahy may be bringing up is, in so doing this project, are they bringing in new dirt, or are they using dirt from the existing lot?
Was Aaron at any of the planning and zoning meetings dealing with this?
Not with this question, but they were.
Right, but they were there, but they didn't get this question.
Yeah, nothing came out. I mean, I guess the only thing that I would still say, so the time period is 1977, 78?
78, it flooded in April of 1979, and I think that's when the property physically had already changed hands at that time to work with. But they came in and they were in the process of Public Works Department dealing with the construction of a proposed garage. So I think that's your time frame, and Jerry will handle all of it.
Okay. So the only thing though, I guess that I would say, I really have only been dealing with FEMA requirements and floodplain regulations since maybe the late 1980s. But I know in my career already, regulations have changed. So again, if there's an agreement that long ago that's dated, I mean, it might be based on requirements or regulations that, really aren't even
But I'm
current,
surprised.
as long as things would comply with today's standards.
But you're not complying with FEMA. This is the city of Brentwood with the property owner as to how it affects the adverse. And the level is that what we allowed Bi-State to do at the time was to hopefully avoid the flooding of Marshall. We've demonstrated since 79 to present, Marshall still floods. If you're going to allow them to raise up another section, you're going to create more of a problem than on Marshall.
Okay.
Point of order, assuming this is a motion, this is riveting conversation about it, I haven't heard a second.
Right. Now, that's exactly where I was going, Alderman Waggy. So are you making a motion?
Yes, sir, I am.
To postpone or table this?
I think this
Bill
needs to be
number-
tabled until we resolve it with the city.
So that's a motion to table or postpone bill number 6247. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do we have a second on that motion? We have no second. Okay.
Point of order, sir.
Yes.
If it's a violation of city arrangement, why do we not have due diligence to make sure that we've done all of our bases?
Well, I think you're assuming, you're assuming that it is a violation, and we don't know that. We don't have anything in front of us, Alderman Waggy.
Then why wouldn't we take the time to confirm that?
Because I'm not sure that there is anything that needs to be confirmed.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
You said originally, and maybe you said it originally, that the engineer, that Jacobs had submitted what you called a no-rise submittal. What's it, is that something that Jacobs did?
Yes.
What does that mean?
So there's a 100-year base flood elevation which exists today, say it's 413 feet. What we put out there, you hydraulically model it, and you show that whenever you fill in the floodplain, will not make that elevation any higher than this.
And you verified that, that's part of this submission. Thank you.
And that's sealed with your authority as engineer.
That's one question.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on a second.
Yes, sir.
I'm not clear on the ramifications of taking a half acre up out of the floodplain and displacing that water during a flood. Has that water been accounted for with all of our Brentwood bound measurements?
Well, what I will say is, there is no storage component that exists today. Storage being volume displaced by flood water, by filling in flood. It doesn't exist. There's conveyance requirement, which is a flood elevation resulting from your impact. But the Brentwood Bound project is also displacing about 3,300 cubic yards of dirt that is in the floodplain now that we're taking out downstream of the project. So that's going to offset it.
So my follow-up is, do we need to take out more dirt to balance what you are doing?
We will be doing that in other areas of Brentwood now. Yes.
Okay, let's just hold on a second. There was a motion, that motion failed for lack of a second. So if there are any other questions, can we get a second reading of Bill 6247 by title only, please?
Yes, sir. Bill number 6247, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance granting site plan approval for an electrical substation and related improvements at 3000 South Brentwood Boulevard.
Thank you. Can we get a motion to perfect 6247 in the ordinance form?
Motion to perfect the ordinance.
Thank you. We have a motion by Alderman Waggy, seconded by Alderwoman Sims. Now, any further discussion on bill number 6247?
I'll argue that the city is headed down the wrong avenue. If it's openly admitted, it has not done its due diligence, and that this bill should not be passed at this time.
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Lane.
No.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Yes.
Alderwoman Parker Tice.
Yes.
Alderman Plufka.
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims.
Yes.
Alderman Whiting.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-1.
Thank you. Next on the item, or the agenda, bill number 6250. Mr. City Attorney, can we get that by title, first reading by title only, please?
Bill number 6250, first reading, an ordinance approving the final subdivision plat of a parcel located at 3000 South Brentwood Boulevard into 2 industrial lots.
Thank you. And this is a companion to 6247. As such, there's really no need to read the synopsis. Okay. We have no presentation. Can we get a second read by title only then, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, sir. Bill number 6250, second reading and consideration for adoption of an ordinance approving a final subdivision plat of a parcel located at 3000 South Brentwood Boulevard into 2 industrial lots.
Thank you. Motion to perfect 6250 in the ordinance form? So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Plufka, seconded by Alderman Sims. Any discussion?
I'll renew, Mr. Chairman.
Sir.
I'll renew my objection that what we're doing should not be done until the city it openly does its due diligence.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
No.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Parker Tice?
Yes.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Witt?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-1.
Thank you, Shelley. Next on the agenda is item C, 11C, Bill number 6258, first reading only by title, please.
Bill number 6258, first reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 500 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood and adopting new building, residential, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, existing building, fuel gas, energy conservation, property maintenance, and fire codes.
Can we get the synopsis,
The
please?
planning and development staff will present proposed amendments to the 2018 National Council ICC Suite of Codes. There will be an open house to present, there was an open house to present this information for the proposed adoption of the 2018 ICC Suite of Codes to contractors. And to actually provide the invite and what was said to the public.
Thank you. We have a presentation on this.
So this bill tonight represents, again, the ordinance to go ahead and adopt new codes. The ICC International Code Council are the ones, is the organization that produces codes on every 3-year cycles. We're currently on all the 2009 codes, so this bill represents us going ahead and adopting the 2018 ICC codes. This is also important, extremely important, with our ISO rating that we try to maintain with the city. In fact, we had conversations with our ISO officer back in April. We had a review, and this was one item that we got flagged for, that we're back on 2009 codes. That being said, we're really kind of on still the cutting edge. I think there's probably only maybe about 6 or 7 communities in the St. Louis area that are on the 2018 codes. St. Louis City is actually one of them. So we have the alternative to either just accept the codes as they're written, or if we have to customize them for some reason, to customize them to the city of Brentwood, or if we want to find exceptions to those requirements, we can go ahead and include that language in the ordinance as well. So that's why it's a little bit more lengthy, what we have before you. Most of it, again, is just simple customization changes to the city of Brentwood by title, referring all these codes back to our violation and penalty section and our fees and our fee refunds. So that hopefully was clear and didn't cause any alarm. And even the other exceptions that we've made and so forth are just really things that we see here in our region and so forth, because these are, again, adopted internationally and nationally. So that's why we did have a few things that we went ahead and revised. So everything, again, would be revising the codes from 2009 to 2018. The National Electric Code would be from the existing 2008 edition that we're on now to the 2017 edition. In preparation of this, we also wanted to give our builders an opportunity to respond if they had any concerns graduating to the 2018 codes. We had an open house where about 10 builders came. We went ahead and invited everybody that's on our contractors registration list through MyGov. And so again, we had about 10 that came there. Most of them are just, again, there were no serious comments or concerns really from any of them that we go to the 2018 codes. And then the other item what else we had was that we had the Home Builders Association contact us, and they had given us quite a long list of different things they wanted us to consider for the IRC, the International Residential Code. But when we really sat down with them and had a discussion, most of the things that they were mentioning, they just brought up to see how we would actually interpret the code and apply the code. So once we went through that discussion, there really wasn't anything that came out of that. So what we have tonight then is what our recommendation is to to go ahead with the 2018 ICC codes.
Thank you. Any questions for Lisa?
I have one.
Sure.
Question. So just to clarify, you met with the home builders on the 25th, which was after the Public Works Committee, so no changes came out of that?
No, and again, they really put a lot of time and effort into it, you could tell. But they, again, were coming up with some things that would be so unique that we have not seen when we're building 6 to 12 houses a year. It's just things that we just don't run across, so.
Anyone else?
Oh, no. Lady, when is the effectivity date of when you would go to the 2018 code?
So this was written so it would be immediately upon adoption.
And have our inspectors, because we do our own inspections, have they all been complete their training to the point that they're qualified to go to the 2018 code for inspection?
They have been studying the codes and they have completed training of the codes.
Good.
So we will be ready to go.
We're up to speed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, sir. Just a compliment actually for the Planning and Development Department and the staff. I know there's a lot of work involved in this. I applaud the department and the city for bringing us into the modern ages. There was a time on the board, a woman lady might remember, when we were dealing with the 2003 code for quite some time, and the actual year on the calendar was far in advance of that. 2009, I think, was adopted, maybe 2012 or something like that, I can't remember. But I know there's been a lot of work in this, Mr. Chairman, and a lot of revisions that were carved out, worked on, and I just want to compliment the department.
Thank you. Thanks, Lisa. Next on the agenda, item number 11D, bill number 6259. Can we get that bill by title only, first reading by title only, please?
Bill number 6259, first reading, an ordinance granting a conditional use permit to Stephen Walls for a fitness gym at 8500 Manchester Road.
Thank you.
An application was received from Stephen Wallace to operate a fitness gym in the existing building located at 8500 Manchester Road. The property is a multi-tenant retail center and is 1.10 acres in size. The present MC district allows enclosed or open recreational uses by conditional permit. Conditional use permit for Class A, 2 acres or greater in size, and Class B, at least 1 acre but less than 2 acres in size. The subject property is a Class B site, given its land area of 1.10 acres. The petitioner desires to operate a fitness gym at this location requiring conditional use permit approval. The existing building is approximately 4,000 square feet. No alterations to the exterior of the building or to the site are planned. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the conditional use permit by a vote of 8 yes and 0 nays.
Great, thank you. Lisa?
So this went before the Planning and Zoning Commission at the September meeting. And again, the request is because it's MC Manchester Port Commercial District, the enclosed or open recreational uses are permitted by conditional use permit, and so this gym falls in that category, requiring a conditional use permit approval. The only concern that the Planning and Zoning Commission had was about maybe the availability of parking. So this standalone building is tied into the multi-tenant retail strip center next to it. And so currently, the entire retail center has 77 striped parking spaces, of which 3 really would be considered illegal parking spaces, leaving 74. So the current tenant mix would seem to be types of businesses that would be outright with shared use parking. And especially in the hours, the early hours when the gym operates, I don't think there's going to be any problem at that point during the day, but more towards maybe the late afternoon and evening. And right now there is actually about 6,000 square feet of space that's still unoccupied in this retail center. So again, I think the commission, they voted 8-0 to recommend approval. I think they felt comfortable again that the current tenant mix appears to have the staggered hours that everybody will have enough parking. They did attach a condition that said if the last 6,000 square feet, once that gets occupied, if there would be some type of parking issue at that point in time, that the property owner would still be given an opportunity to meet the city's parking requirement. Otherwise, it may be reasons to revoke the conditional use permit. Now, this condition was acceptable by the petitioner. He is here this evening. We have since been kind of in consultation with the city attorney, and I think the city attorney feels that probably we would not really need this condition, because if there was a parking issue, that would be, I guess, grounds enough, if you will, to revoke the permit. So, I know.
We do not recommend the condition that's in the draft ordinance at this point. I think it's going to be almost impossible to enforce. We have parking standards. This type of business requires X parking spaces. This building is also grandfathered in terms of it has standards at the time it was built for different kinds of use. The other thing is, if the landlord brings in a tenant who consumes parking, the idea that this tenant would be forced to cease operations because the landlord selected another tenant for unoccupied space. We generally think that the questions ought to be dealt with at the time when and if an application for occupancy comes in and there's available unallocated parking, as well as available unallocated parking given the standards at the time the building was built. The inclusion of this provision now is inactive.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions on that?
Out of curiosity, how many fitness centers will Brentwood have in the area?
I don't know the exact number, but a few.
Over 13 or 14.
This is the old Amico transmission.
Correct, on the south side of Manchester.
And that existing parking lot hasn't changed when it was Amico rather. And I'm guessing that probably had a lot more use under that type of use when it comes to parking than what the current applicant's going to be using it for. I don't, is the applicant here to be able to answer the question?
Just a kind of note on the parking requirement for things like auto repair is based on the number of bays and so forth. So I would say still given the number of bays, the number of spaces for the transmission shop would have been lower than this fitness center having an occupancy of, I think, 66 persons and following our existing parking requirement it keeps 24 parking spaces. So, yeah, the applicant is here.
Well, you just didn't answer that question.
Alderman Levy?
So of those unbeknownst number of other workout facilities, none of them have a conditional use permit, correct?
All the other existing ones that we have. So in the light industrial district, it's permitted by right, which most of them involve in light industrial. Right now, I don't have my code with me. I cannot think what the plan development was. If it's conditional use permit or also permitted by right.
Would we require a conditional use permit if one was in retail district like Brentwood or?
So that would be the plan development, and I would have to look that up. I'm not quite sure if it's conditional use or permitted by right.
So I understand the logic of the Class A and the Class B property, but the actual footprint they're going to occupy is 4,000 square feet. So that's much, much less than 1 acre. It seems to me that we're being overly burdensome on a business that would have no problem probably doing it anywhere else in the city here.
So the old transmission shop and the retail strip center is actually one parcel, on one locator number. And so when we came up with Class A and Class B sites, it is based on land area, so not square footage of buildings. So this is part of the...
I understand that, but it doesn't seem very logical, I guess, honestly. I mean, even though it's a mixed use, and I would expect everything that's going to happen in Manchester is probably going to be mixed retail, larger
buildings that is segmented out, it seems like we're probably heading towards problems. To have to bring everything through for conditional use permits. And it doesn't have to happen anywhere else in the city. So I guess that's just my thought. And I guess I would make a motion that we remove the condition in section 1 to Alderman, or I'm sorry, Kevin's point about the contingency, because I agree that doesn't seem enforceable.
Yeah, Kevin, do we need that motion to pull that out, the paragraph 1?
The bill's been read as introduced, so a motion to amend would be in order.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend Bill 6259 by deleting under section 1, paragraph 1, and cleaning up the lead in the language.
Second.
So we've got a motion by Alderman Waggy, seconded by Alderman Plufka. Any discussion on that amendment? Okay, we need a roll call there, voice vote, yes. Okay, all those in favor of making that amendment, say aye. Aye. All opposed? It passes 8-0. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lisa, this is on the south side of Manchester Road. We are putting a 10-foot wide sidewalk on that area, running all the way from Hanley all the way up to Bremerton. How many parking spaces, if any, would this whole lot end up being adversely affected?
So the shared path will not eliminate any additional spaces.
That's what I wanted to confirm.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. So we'll take the second read at the next meeting. Next on the agenda is item 11E, bill number 6260. We have a first and second read, I believe, on 6260. Can we get first read by title only, please?
Bill number 6260, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, approving an amendment to the lease with ND West Contracting Company and Western Construction Equipment Company Incorporated, authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance and containing a severability clause.
Thank you. Bola?
The City of Brentwood and NB West Contracting Company and Western Construction Equipment Company, Inc. desire to enter into an amendment to lease substantially 2780 Mary Avenue, St. Louis, Missouri. Mark Murray is here.
Mr. Murray.
Hello. Good evening. Basically, this is the upshot of a request by Mr. West based on some nervousness by his contractor building his new facility on the Pacific Eureka area. There was a way, you recall those rains we had in August. They were worried that that's going to send them back. So they approached us about getting another month in the building if they needed it. The way this works is not quite a week-by-week option. It's got kind of a jumbled number of days, try to make that on Fridays. Basically, got 3 options to extend throughout the month of April. We're paying a little bit of money, which includes kind of a rent component, but also a component to offset the cost of civil incurred to have the asbestos folks out twice. So they're going to basically pay us that cost remobilize the second time. So if they don't need to go into April, they're not going to. And if they don't need to go all of April, they don't have to go all of April. So it's lots of
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, can we get second reading by title only, please?
Bill number 6260, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, approving an amendment to the lease with NB West Contracting Company and Western Construction Equipment Company Incorporated, authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, and containing a severability clause.
Thank you. Can we get a motion to perfect bill number 6260 in the ordinance form?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderwoman Neal and seconded by Alderwoman Sims. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Kramer?
No.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderwoman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderwoman Parker Price?
Yes.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Whitney?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-1.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, citizen comments. Anyone in the audience care to address the board? Now is the time to do so. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 13. We have a closed meeting on the agenda tonight. Can we get a motion to go into closed meeting Pursuant to RS Mode 610.021 subsection 1 and subsection 2, legal and real estate.
And thereafter, so moved.
All right, motion by Alderman Lady, seconded by Alderman Lufka. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Craver?
Yes.
Alderman Lady?
Yes.
Alderman Lockwood?
Yes.
Alderman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Lufka?
Yes.
Alderman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Tice?
Yes.
And Alderman Wade?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to insurance right now. Let's see, Shelley, where are we doing this? Here? Okay. We're staying here. Okay, let's take a quick 3-minute recess.